When someone you love walks away, it feels like your world collapses in slow motion. The silence that follows a breakup can be louder than any argument, more painful than any goodbye. You find yourself questioning everything: what went wrong, what you could have done differently, and why love that once felt so certain suddenly feels like a stranger you can't recognize. But here's the truth most people never tell you: that pain you feel, that ache that keeps you up at night, is not a sign of weakness. It's proof that you cared deeply, that you loved with sincerity, and that you showed up with your whole heart in a world where most people only give half. Pain is the body's way of reminding you that something mattered. When your heart hurts, it's because you dared to open it. You took a chance on vulnerability. You allowed someone into your world, trusted them with your emotions, and believed in the beauty of connection. That is not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it's something to respect. Because love, in its purest form, is courage. It's standing at the edge of uncertainty and saying, I'm willing to risk being hurt just to feel something real. So when the person you gave your heart to walks away, don't let the pain convince you that you made a mistake. It means you were alive enough to feel. Most people spend their lives avoiding pain. They distract themselves, they hide behind pride, or they numb their emotions just to feel in control. But when you love and lose, you're experiencing one of the most profound truths of life: that nothing real comes without a cost. Pain is a part of healing, and healing is a sign that you're still growing. Every tear you shed carries away a little bit of the past, making space for something new to bloom. The end of love doesn't mean the end of you. It's simply the end of a chapter that taught you something you couldn't have learned any other way. The hardest part is accepting that pain and love coexist. You can't separate the two. You can't expect to experience the beauty of connection without the risk of heartbreak. The moment you choose to love, you also choose to make peace with the possibility of loss. That's what makes love powerful. It's fragile and fearless all at once. The heartbreak you're feeling right now is not the destruction of your spirit. It's the awakening of it. It's showing you the parts of yourself you ignored, the boundaries you need to build, and the self-worth you might have forgotten to protect. You see, pain is a mirror. It reflects what you valued, what you believed in, and where you placed your energy. When you sit in silence after a breakup, the emptiness you feel isn't just about them. It's about you. It's about realizing how much of yourself you gave, how deeply you invested, and how desperately you wanted it to work. That realization stings because it forces you to confront your own expectations. But within that discomfort lies your greatest growth. Pain pushes you to stop depending on someone else for your happiness. It teaches you that your heart can break and still beat stronger than before. When she walks away, you'll be tempted to prove something, to her, to yourself, to the world. You'll want to show that you're fine, that you've moved on, that it doesn't hurt. But pretending doesn't heal anything. It only buries the pain deeper. Real healing begins when you face it, when you let yourself feel every ounce of the hurt without shame. The pain you're feeling now is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to shape you. Every heartbreak leaves behind a lesson written in invisible ink. You might not see it right away, but over time, those lessons turn into wisdom. Pain reminds you of your capacity to feel. It reminds you that your love was genuine, that you were capable of depth, commitment, and tenderness. Many people go through life numb, detached, afraid to care. But not you. You felt something real. You experienced connection in its truest form. And even though it ended, that experience still holds value. Because one day, when you've healed, when you've grown, you'll love again, but this time with more clarity, with more strength, and with a heart that understands its worth. In this moment, your pain might feel unbearable. It might feel like nothing makes sense, like your future has lost its meaning. But one day, you'll look back and realize that the pain you're feeling now was your transformation in disguise. Every scar your heart carries will tell a story of resilience. Every sleepless night will turn into a lesson in patience. Every tear will remind you that you survived something that was meant to break you but didn't. So instead of running from the pain, sit with it. Listen to what it's trying to tell you. There's wisdom buried inside every heartbreak. There's strength waiting to be discovered beneath every tear. And the fact that you're hurting doesn't mean you lost. It means you had the courage to love. And that courage will always be your greatest power after a breakup. The first instinct most people have is to fix it. You feel the urge to reach out, to explain yourself, to make them understand how much they meant to you. You want closure, answers, maybe even a second chance. But the truth is, those impulses don't come from love. They come from fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear of being replaced, Fear that the connection you once had is slipping away forever. That fear makes you chase, call, text, and plead, thinking that the louder you speak, the more likely they'll listen. But in reality, the more noise you make, the less powerful you become. Silence, on the other hand, is unsettling. It's mysterious. It carries a weight that words can't. When you stop reacting, when you stop explaining, when you stop showing that you're broken, you take back control. Silence is not about ignoring someone. It's about respecting yourself enough not to beg for attention. It's the calm after the storm, the quiet strength that says, I may be hurting, but I'm not desperate. And that, more than anything, gets noticed because silence creates space, space for curiosity, space for reflection, a space for realization. When someone breaks up with you, they expect a reaction. They expect anger, tears, or endless attempts to win them back. But when all they're met with is calmness and composure, it confuses them. It makes them question your emotions, your attachment, even their decision. Your silence becomes the mirror that reflects their choices back to them. They start to wonder, why isn't he chasing me? Doesn't he care anymore? That uncertainty begins to work in your favor. Because people tend to value what they can't easily read. The moment you stop being predictable, you become powerful. Silence also gives you something words can't: clarity. When you're no longer spending your energy explaining yourself or trying to be heard, you finally have room to think. You begin to see things as they are, not as your emotions want them to be. You start to understand what went wrong, not to blame yourself, but to grow. You learn that love should never make you lose your peace. You realize that if someone can walk away from you without hesitation, then maybe your silence is the only response they deserve. There's a different kind of strength in saying nothing. It's the strength of someone who has accepted that not every story needs to be rewritten. Sometimes closure isn't found in conversation. It's found in acceptance. Silence gives you that. It protects your dignity when your heart is too fragile to defend itself. It allows you to heal without performing that healing for others to see. When you choose silence, you're not being cold, you're being wise. You're choosing to stop feeding an energy that no longer serves you. Silence also sends a powerful message about your self-worth. It says you don't need to fight for someone's attention to feel valuable. You don't need to chase someone to prove your love. You don't need validation to know your worth. When you stop responding, you're teaching others how to treat you. You're silently showing that your love is a privilege, not a guarantee. And that kind of energy commands respect. People can sense when you've detached from neediness and stepped into self-assurance. It's an energy shift they can't ignore. At first, silence will feel uncomfortable. It will feel like you're losing something. You'll want to break it, to reach out, to check if they still care. But every time you resist that urge, you're strengthening yourself. You're learning the art of emotional discipline, the ability to control your actions when your emotions are out of control. That's where real power lies, because silence is not emptiness, it's focus. It's the moment you stop trying to change someone's mind and start changing your own life. People often mistake silence for indifference, but it's not about pretending not to care. It's about choosing not to act on emotion. You can care deeply and still be quiet. You can miss someone and still not chase them. You can love someone and still choose distance. Silence is how you protect the parts of yourself that deserve peace. It's how you preserve your energy when chaos tries to pull you back in. Eventually, your silence becomes your statement. It speaks volumes about your strength, your maturity, and your emotional intelligence. It shows that you understand your value doesn't depend on anyone's acknowledgement. And in a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, and being the one who chooses calm over chaos, silence over begging, and dignity over drama, that's what truly sets you apart. When you stop chasing, something powerful happens. The energy that once flowed outward toward the person who left begins to return to you. That moment of stillness, when you finally stop reacting, stop reaching, and stop explaining yourself, is the moment your power starts to shift back where it belongs. Most people think healing comes from doing more, talking more, searching for closure, or proving their worth. But true transformation doesn't come from action, it comes from stillness. It's in the quiet moments, about the ones where you sit alone with your thoughts and your pain, that you begin to realize you were never powerless. You just forgot how powerful your peace could be. Stillness is not weakness. It's not silence out of defeat. It's the conscious decision to stop feeding what no longer serves you. When she walks away, your emotions will demand movement. You'll feel the urge to fix things, to show her what she's missing, to somehow pull her back with effort and attention. But chasing only drains you. Every text you send, every call you make, every attempt to be noticed gives away a piece of your energy. And that energy, once given away, takes time to recover. The power shift happens when you decide that instead of chasing love, you'll rebuild yourself. That's where your focus needs to be. In stillness, you begin to see clearly. You start to realize that peace is not something someone else gives you. It's something you create for yourself. You stop searching for answers outside and start finding them within. You notice patterns you once ignored, red flags you once justified, and truths you were too afraid to accept. That's the magic of stillness. It reveals reality. It removes the fog of emotion that clouds your judgment and allows you to see the situation for what it truly is, not what you wished it would be. When you are still, you start to heal in ways that chasing could never allow. You learn that love is not control, that attention is not affection, and that silence is not always absence. It can be strength. The stillness becomes your teacher. It shows you the difference between attachment and connection, between obsession and care, between love that frees you and love that confines you. You begin to understand that chasing someone who has walked away doesn't bring them back. It only keeps you from walking forward. Stillness also has a strange effect on others. When you stop reacting, the balance of power changes. The person who left starts to feel the absence of your energy. They begin to notice the silence, the space you've created, and the calmness that now surrounds you. They wonder how you can be so composed, how you can be so unbothered, how you can move with such peace. And that uncertainty often triggers curiosity. People are drawn to stability, and when they sense that you found yours, they can't help but question their decision. But here's the thing. The goal isn't to make them regret losing you. The goal is to become so centered in your stillness that their opinion no longer determines your peace. In that quiet phase, you'll rediscover yourself. You'll start doing the things you once stopped doing because your energy was consumed by the relationship. You'll remember who you were before the heartbreak, and you'll see how much stronger you've become because of it. Stillness gives you back your identity. It helps you detach your worth from someone's validation. It allows you to fall in love with solitude instead of fearing it. Because when you can sit in silence and feel whole, you become untouchable. Stillness is not the same as waiting. Waiting means hoping for someone to come back. Stillness means you've stopped waiting and started evolving. You've decided that your peace matters more than your pride, more than revenge, more than being right. You're not competing, not convincing, not comparing. You're simply becoming. That's what shifts the power. You no longer need their response to feel significant. Your silence and stillness become the proof that you've grown past the chaos. In stillness, you begin to rebuild your energy. You start focusing on your goals again, your health, your peace, your dreams. You realize that the love you were giving to someone else can now be redirected into building a better version of yourself. The time you once spent analyzing messages or replaying arguments can now be used to rediscover your passions. The more you invest in yourself, the more grounded you become. And grounded people attract everything they once chased. The power shift happens not when you get their attention, but when you no longer need it. When your silence turns from a strategy into a lifestyle. When you stop trying to prove your worth and start embodying it. When you learn to be still even when your emotions want to move. That's when everything changes. Because stillness is not the absence of power. It's the control of it. When someone walks away from you, your first instinct might be to fill the silence, to call, to text, to explain how much they meant to you. You want them to know you still care, to understand what they're losing. But what most people don't realize is that the most powerful message you can ever send doesn't come from your words. It comes from your absence. Because absence speaks in ways presence never can. It creates a void, a quiet that echoes louder than any conversation. When you remove your energy, your attention, your presence, you force the other person to feel the weight of what you once brought into their life. People only realize value when it's gone. As long as you're available. As long as you keep reaching out, you're reminding them that they still have access to you. They don't feel the loss because you never allowed them to. But when you step back, when you stop checking in, stop reacting, stop being the one who fills the silence, they begin to notice. They start to feel the absence of your energy. And that absence starts to whisper reminders of everything they took for granted. It reminds them of your consistency, your patience, your care. It makes them realize that the energy they once thought was ordinary was in fact rare. Letting your absence speak doesn't mean playing games. It's not manipulation or pride. It's about alignment. It's about understanding that your worth doesn't need to be proven through presence. When you step away, You're not trying to make them miss you, you're simply reclaiming your peace. You're letting life do what it always does. Show people what they lost by losing you. Because the truth is, nothing teaches appreciation faster than absence. People can ignore your words, but they can't ignore your silence forever. Absence has a way of making people think. When you're no longer around, they begin to replay memories they once overlooked. They remember your laughter, your patience, the way you made them feel seen. And the longer you stay silent, the clearer those memories become. Your absence becomes a mirror that reflects their choices back at them. They begin to question whether walking away was worth it, whether they misjudged your worth, whether they confused peace with boredom. That's the quiet power of absence. It doesn't chase, it doesn't explain. It simply allows reality to unfold. While they're busy trying to make sense of your silence, you'll be rediscovering yourself. Because the purpose of distance isn't to punish them. It's to rebuild you. Absence gives you space to grow, to think, to heal. It allows you to detach from the emotional chaos that follows a breakup and to see things with new eyes. It helps you understand that love should never make you lose yourself. You realize that being missed is not the goal, becoming whole again is. And as you grow, as you become more grounded in your own energy, your absence becomes even more powerful. Because it's not just the absence of you from their life, it's the presence of strength in yours. There's a quiet confidence that comes from walking away without noise. It's the confidence of someone who knows their value doesn't decrease just because someone else failed to see it. When you let your absence speak, you're showing that you no longer need to explain your worth to anyone. You're teaching through silence that love is not something that begs. It's something that stands tall. Your distance communicates maturity, strength, and control. It says, I don't need to be seen to be valued. I don't need to be heard to be remembered. And that truth hits deeper than any words ever could. The beauty of absence is that it works in both directions. It not only makes them reflect, it also helps you release. When you stop showing up where you're not appreciated, your spirit begins to lighten. You stop carrying the emotional weight of proving your worth. You start to find peace in solitude. You begin to understand that not everyone who loses you deserves another chance to find you. Absence helps you fall in love with distance, because distance protects your dignity. It gives you time to focus on what truly matters: your growth, your goals, your healing. In time, they might reach out. They might realize what they lost and try to return. But by then, your silence will have done its work. You'll no longer crave their validation because you'll have found something stronger: self-respect. That's the gift of letting your absence do the talking. It transforms you from someone seeking closure to someone who has outgrown the need for it. Your silence becomes the proof that you've healed beyond the noise. Because in a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, your quiet withdrawal becomes the loudest statement of all.